Hello everyone, welcome to Scorcher Toys at AnyMoon.com's review of Bandai's DX VF-31F Messer Custom. This is the second VF-31DX release, following up the Hayate VF-31J. Like the Hayate toy before it, this toy comes in a nice sturdy box that opens up to reveal a nice lid, which opens up to reveal the toy with the accessories under the lid. Those accessories include 6 sets of fixed posed hands, a pilot figure, a co-pilot figure, this would be Kaname. You get 2 knives, a hologram device in the flying position and one in the projecting position, that's like an arrow and a square. This toy adds 2 sets of replacement head lasers and 1 replacement head spike as well. Underneath that tray you will find the display stand, which consists of a base and arm, and then you get 3 display stand adapters, 1 for each mode, as well as instructions. If you've seen my review of the VF-31J, there aren't going to be very many surprises here. This is really the same toy with a different head and a different paint scheme, with one exception that I'll go to when I get to fighter mode, and that is the canopy is a little bit more clear on the VF-31F. One of the big complaints with the VF-31J was that the canopy was so opaque you couldn't see the pilot and co-pilot figures. That has been addressed mildly, so to speak. The head is the big difference. It's new, obviously it's a new and different head from the VF-31J. It has a unicorn spike and 2 lasers off to the side instead of that 1 spike in the front. It's kind of got ridges in this blue clear plastic here. The spike in the middle can pop off, which should hopefully make it so you don't break it. And again, you do get an extra one with the toy. So that's what the head looks like. I think it's a bit of an acquired taste in comparison to the VF-31J head, which to me is a little bit more attractive all around. So that is the big differences there. Now, I didn't mention that this toy came with a gun. That's because the gun is integrated. You can just lift up and pull out. And then this is your gun. The gun fits into the hand. Now, the big complaint with the VF-31J, and continues to be a big complaint here, is that the articulated hands that come with this toy have articulated fingers in all respects except the trigger finger. And the thumb, I guess. But the trigger finger not being articulated means it can't really get fists. But it does mean you can put the gun in the hand. It doesn't do the best job of gripping the gun, so you'll probably want to use one of the included fixed posed hands. You get so many included fixed posed hands. That is a much better way to go. Or of course you could leave the gun up in the backpack if you wanted to. It's not like there's a ton of sweet Batroid action in Macross Delta where you would remember them holding the guns very much. Alright, so here is the articulated hand put on the gun, and you can see there's got some slop to it. We can put it on there though, and you can do some posing with it, but you can see it's kind of a loose noodle there, and in certain poses it's going to want to droop down on you. So again, the better thing to do, open it up, get a fixed posed hand, slide it on there, and then that will alleviate any concern you have. Obviously, when you go to fighter mode, you're going to have to swap this out, but not a big deal there. So, got that gun on that hand, just pop that off. This goes on, and now that thing's going to be rock solid. So, definitely use the fixed posed hands in Batroid mode if you're going to pull that gun off the backpack. Hand weirdness aside, Batroid mode is a ton of fun. The head's on a ball joint. These lasers are individually articulated. You do have the ability to pivot the backpack and the each side of the backpack individually. Obviously, if you've taken the gun down, pivoting this side doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you have that optionality. You also have a rotation point at the shoulder, as well as an up and down pivot. Moving away, you have at the base of the arm, the ability to pivot up and down, and then you have a twist point right in the middle bicep. It's very stiff. You have a double jointed elbow that has great range of motion. You have a twist point in the forearm. That's kind of a transformation mechanism. You have these swing out guns, which add a lot to the play factor, and some good posing, some good display options. Ball jointed hands. Waist joint, You have a lot of weight in the back of the toy, but you also have ratcheted hips that help you control all that weight. Good A stance, twist point below at the gear walk joint, knee, and another twist at the knee, and you can come forward as well for gear walk, obviously. You could also bring the leg further down, gear walk move, and get a little bit better range of motion there. It's very stiff. So there's 1 click down for Batroid mode, and then 2 click down for gear walk mode there as far as extension gimmicks. Now, one complaint about this toy is that the ankles are recessed in Batroid mode. A lot of people have pointed out that it should be a little bit extended, and that's not how this toy treats it. So you can extend these, but they only go full out or full in. Once in the full out position, you have a huge range of motion back, some up, and even some left and right, and it's clicky. So that's all good. There is this little back collar on the ankle. It could pop off. It's just on a ball joint, so it shouldn't worry you too much. So this toy is a ton of fun to handle, and it's really easy to get into some very exciting looking poses. If you are concerned about scale, no worries there. This toy is 1/60 scale, making it a little bit more than 25 centimeters tall in Batroid mode. You can see kind of how that stacks up with other vehicles in the Macross universe that are also 1/60 scale. If you're starting a high metal collection, then your toys are about this big. So obviously much smaller. If you're curious how it stacks up to the bad guys in Delta, here you go. They are a little bit larger, as you can see, but they go together very well. All right, let's check out that display stand. The display stand is your standard fare. If you're familiar with any of these DX releases at this point, you know you get a base, you get the arm, you have no pivot points in any place. It's just meant to get your toy elevated. You have a display stand adapter. It's now clear. Even if you're using like the waist, as I am right now, this adapter fits in nicely into Batroid mode. It's very snug. It'll get on there nice and securely. You can then just kind of plop it right on top of the display stand, and it will fit in there nice and firm. As you can see, I gave it a good jolt. Nothing going on there. And now I have my VF-31F displayed nicely and stably in Batroid mode. And that's about all you should expect out of it. All right, let's go ahead and check out Gear Walk. Gear Walk mode on these toys is a joy. There's a lot of articulation that's still available to you, as we saw in Batroid mode. All of that arm articulation still there. Obviously, the legs also have a lot you can do with them. From that twist point below the gear walk joint itself, the knees with their huge range of clicky articulation, and then those ankles, which really can go nuts in this when you have them fully extended. So all of that lends itself to a very fun and dynamic gear walk mode. Now, I didn't mention in Batroid mode, but this toy also has knives that tuck in nicely underneath this forearm armor. We could pop that knife out, but again, these articulated hands aren't going to do a very good job with the knife, which we could open up like so. The knife has a little peg slot for it. There's no real good spot for that with the articulated hands. So what you're going to want to do is get one of these fixed post hands that has a little slot in it, and then obviously you could feed the knife in there. It will be super nice and snug in these hands. And then we can go ahead, pop off this hand here, put in the knife hand, and that is obviously a gear walk you would not want to mess with in a back alley on a late night. And you can leave the knives in through transformation, so that's pretty cool. So gear walk definitely gets pretty high marks. The Gear Walk display stand adapter is very nice. It's got 2 slots that go into 2 pegs on the back of the toy. So we have pegs here and here. So I can go ahead and I just fish this in. It will click into place very securely. And then I just plop it on that display stand. And you'll notice that I've also put the gun in the hand in Gear Walk mode. Obviously, you could do that if you prefer the look, and there you go. Holding the toy up, you can have more fun with the legs this way. Let's continue on to fighter mode. One of my minor gripes about the VF-31J release was that the canopy was so opaque you couldn't really make out that there was a pilot in there. It has been slightly reduced on the VF-31F release, but it's still obviously very, very gold with a little bit of shimmer to it. Not quite the best for viewing the pilot, but still a little bit better than it was before. We can open this canopy up. We do have that dual seat gimmick that we've seen since the YF-29. You just pull out this piece, recline a seat, grab your co-pilot figure, and put in the seat. And then we can just close everything back up. Now you can see that she is a full figure. She's got her legs off just a little bit to one side to help make her fit. And that all works out great. And then that just collapses, and there you go. Looks great. As you can see, tons of tampo printing on this toy. Just absolutely ridiculous levels of tampo. And if you look real closely, it's all legible. So sharp and bountiful tampo print. Here is the emblem on the back of the Messer toy. There has been some criticism that it's not pivoted at an angle like it should be. Whether or not that's something that bothers you, obviously, is up to you. For me, I wouldn't have noticed it, but now that I have, I can't stop thinking about it. I think about it all the time. Actually, it's not that big a deal. I've transformed my toy a couple times. There is no wear around this emblem yet, so that is a positive from a durability standpoint. Moving back to the legs, we have these trap doors here that conceal the little hologram devices that we're seeing in the show. You can open them up like this, or you can kind of pivot them up and slide them forward. So two cool little effects there. And again, as you can see, all sorts of tampo all around it. And they shut up nice and tight. And the toy itself holds together incredibly well in this mode. Turning our attention to the bottom, we have the turbine detail. There are covers that go over those for Batroid mode. Nice little option there. Obviously, if it was fighting in space, it wouldn't need that. So something to consider. Now, the big negative of this toy, the landing gear. They are kind of cool in that they rotate, but they are kind of dumb in that they are the back of the kneecap. So obviously that is going to cause some clearance issues. This one's so tight, it doesn't even roll, this one here. So obviously I would have liked to have seen that be addressed. Now, one more cool thing here, the gun actually kind of separates away and gets some clearance. So even though it looks like it's tucked in too tight to fire, it does have a means to address that. So pretty cool there. All in all, fighter mode, very attractive, holds together very well. Lots of cool gimmicks. So another strong plus for this toy. The toy does have the integrated landing gear, but if you are more in the mood for a display stand, we certainly have that option. So here's how we close everything up from the landing gear perspective. Just a little twist, and then close, and retract. So there you go. Now everything's tight. Now we take the display stand. It kind of goes right between the legs, and we'll latch on at the inlet there. And there we go. Now, I do have a little gap forming behind the head here. That's a common problem. Sometimes the head also pops up. So behind the cockpit, at the head. So those are a couple things, a couple trouble areas you'll want to look at. And I will say that my VF-31F is a little less sturdy than my VF-31J toy. So a lot of those things like the hip intakes pop out a little bit easier, and a couple of the pivot points within the torso area come loose a little bit easier on this toy than they did this toy. So that makes the VF-31J a little bit more enjoyable for me. I imagine that's just a production tolerance thing though, and everyone's mileage will vary. Also, I've brought up the weapon bay on the VF-31J on the right here, so you could see that if you were in fighter mode, you could still use that and have fun with it. So overall, great toy, fun in every mode, highly recommended. Check out anymoon.com for my transformation guide, and as always, thanks for watching.